Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. It's Kim Skorupski here at UTMB. That's the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas. Looking at new friends and colleagues, Dr. Stacey Pylman and Dr. John Lowry. Well, let me tell you who these amazing people are, everybody. Dr. Stacey Pylman is an associate professor and the director of continuing medical education at Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, which has two locations in East Lansing and Grand Rapids. And another Michigan person, Dr. John Lowry, is the director of faculty development, the assistant director of Central Michigan University Academy of Medical Educators, and an associate professor of education at CMU College of Medicine in Saginaw, Michigan. So, how did I learn about Dr. Stacey Pylman and Dr. John Lowry? Well, because I'm high input on the Clifton Strengths Inventory. That's my number one thing. I like to sponge up things, which is maddening to me and everybody I know. I got an email from the AAMC, the Association of American Medical Colleges, about a new artificial intelligence workshop series. And I reached out to the folks and said, oh my gosh, you have to get on this podcast. I've had a couple people from Hopkins talk about AI, but this sounds amazing. So in fact, there is a AAMC, the Group on Educational Affairs has a series of virtual workshops that John and Stacey developed. And they're going to be talking all about this new series, which is amazing. And so let's just get it rolling. Again, thank you both for being here. Stacey, what in the world is this amazing series? Tell us all about it.
Sure. So this series, what makes it actually different from a lot of webinars that you would hear about AI, this series is a skill building series. And we were very intentional thinking about what do medical educators need in order to build these skills they're going to need for AI for their careers. We work together actually with a team of people, a team of faculty developers and educators across the nation in order to develop this series where we could really work with people step by step, thinking about the different competencies and skills that they were going to need in order to do their jobs well and not get left behind. And the reason I say that is because we recognize people are very leery of AI. And that's okay. We recognize it. We say, yep, it's okay. You don't have to be fully on board with this AI thing, but it is here. It is integrated into healthcare and medical education already. So we don't want you to be left behind in your careers. We want you to have the skills and knowledge to be able to work with it a little bit and for you to decide what you want to use it for and when.
Thank you so much for doing this, Stacey. We'll get into more details, but we're really curious, John, tell us, how did this come about?
Yeah, well, it came about the way that honestly most of the really good stuff does, which is a conversation between colleagues. So about a year ago, Stacey and I are members of a faculty development special interest group through the CGA. We know each other from a lot of different associations, and we're close geographically and lots of other things. And at one point, we just had a conversation. Stacey was like, hey, you've talked about some AI stuff, because I had done a little bit of programming with this. Again, very basic, very entry level. And Stacey's like, hey, I need to do some AI. My faculty want to know about this. What do you think we should do? We talked about maybe I do a session at her place and she could do a session at my place, and we could say, okay, we've cross promoted and we've shared some information. But then we started thinking, and as we talked to some other colleagues that we know, they have the same needs and they're in the same situation more or less. And so we got together with some more of our friends and colleagues throughout the idea, like, would this be something that we want to take to a bigger audience? And then we got the idea to say, well, what exactly would we want to do? Like, this is not just a single session, a single thing. There's a whole lot to learn about AI. There's a whole lot to know. There's a whole lot to be able to do. And so we focused on the doing. We focused on building skills. And that was something I have to give credit to Stacey. That was something that she really focused on. I think has been a great thing for our program, is to say, there's a lot of theoretical stuff. There's a lot of, technology-based stuff you can learn, and they can get that a lot of places. What we want to do, if we're going to put our time into this, we want to be able to have people who can leave being able to use it in their daily work. So we really focused on skill building. So then we said, okay, what skills should we build? And that's where we undertook a really big effort to identify the competencies that have been identified in literature, have been identified as best practices, and also that relate very directly to the work that medical educators do. So medical educators teach, they create learning documents and information, they organize courses, they assess learners, they're involved with research and scholarly activities and the whole gamut of what medical educators do. And so we scoured the literature to say, okay, what does this mean exactly and how would we use AI for it? So we identified a whole list of competencies that we felt would be appropriate to use AI for. And so we developed this series really to address those competencies and to really move the needle in terms of being able to do things with it. In each of our series sessions, people who participate will actually get a hands-on experience. We'll actually open up an AI program and say, here's some prompts and here's what we're going to do with it. It's not just going to be, how did AI come to be or here's what it could do. No, we're going to have people actually do things with it so that they start to say, okay, I see how I did that. Yeah, it's pretty basic to start with, but I can see how I can also improve and do better. That concept of continuous improvement is also something that we build throughout this. And so really that's how it came to be, is we got enough people who were part of our professional networks. We work with some outstanding faculty developers, educators, professionals who are committed to this idea of let's contribute to the greater good in terms of education. And we have a team of people who are really leading this series of webinars. But we've also then gotten connected to lots of other people. Our GEA, so we have one person in our group specifically who I'm pretty sure knows everyone on planet Earth, Alyssa Hall. Everyone in the medical education community specifically, she knows or has a contact with. She has introduced us to people at the AAMC. She has introduced us to people across the different GEA groups. So we're in the central group, the CGEA. She's introduced us to people in the Northeast GEA, Southern GEA, Western, all over the country, and then even some groups that expand across borders into international context. So she has been particularly helpful, but we got a lot of feedback from our first one. We had people reaching out. It's really starting to grow, and there's some excitement around this. So it's been great to see that.
Gosh, John, first of all, I'm just so proud to be a member of this community, these academic health folks. Thank you so much for doing this. This took a lot of work. So kudos to both you and Stacey for doing the extra work. Like you started off, Stacey, saying, no, or John, I'll come do a thing at your place. You come do a thing at my place. We're cross-pollinating. Aren't we doing great work? But to go that extra mile is not easy. So major congratulations to you. I'm so proud of the work we do through the AAMC, the GEA, the Group on Educational Affairs. This is why I love talking to you both, because this is the unique niche that we as faculty members ourselves in academic health can bring value to faculty development, because we're not just, and I don't want to demean anybody by saying just, we're not like coming from the AI industry per se. We're not coming from the education field per se. We are capitalizing on being in academic health as educators who know AI. That extra skill set that we have, that you've taken upon yourself to learn, is just another great example of the limitless potential of being in academic health. Of you go where your mind draws you because you're so curious, and here you are doing all this work. It's just wonderful. And so I just want to pause and note what both you, Dr. John Lowry, Dr. Stacey Pylman, are doing. Stacey, could you get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of the details of the program and the series? And maybe are there too many competencies that you can't even list them? Or can you kind of hearken John mentioned these competencies? Like, tell us a little bit more, because I'm sure people are like, all right, tell us more. What happens in your workshops?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So there are a lot of competencies, so I'm not going to bore you all with listing them off, but if you look up our webinar series, you'll be able to find those competencies there. But I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the various sessions. And so back in May, we had our first session. John actually led that one, and it was an introduction to AI in medical education. Just key concepts, understanding what it was, how we use it, that sort of thing. And then this Thursday, I am leading with some colleagues. The second one, we are digging into how to prompting for educators, really, and how to have effective communication with AI. And we realized that we started pretty, I would say, kind of low on the scale of AI competencies, because we realized not everybody's coming to this in the same place, right? So we didn't want to leave anybody behind. So we wanted to give the basics first and build from there. Because if you don't know what AI is or how to prompt it, then the rest of what we're going to talk about isn't going to make any sense. So we start with those two. And then from there, we're going to move into how to evaluate the AI outputs, how to critically analyze it for accuracy and relevance. We're going to talk about AI efficiency and automation in your workplace. We are going to talk about using AI with data and scholarship, then developing AI enhanced curricula, because as John said, that's a big piece of what many educators do, is developing curriculum. And then we are going to talk about personalizing learning with AI, meaning as educators, how can we develop personalized ways to personalize AI for our learners, for our medical students, so that it's more targeted for them. We're going to talk about AI for assessment and evaluation in medical education, preparing for AI integration in clinical education. So thinking about what will our students need to know as they go into healthcare practice, and how do we prepare them for that? What do they need to learn in medical school so that they're ready to hit the ground running when they get into healthcare? And then we are going to end it, as far as we know, in February, we are going to have a session called Continuous Professional Development in AI, Building a Lifelong Learning Plan, because we recognize there's no way we can cover everything in our series, but we want to help everybody who participates with us then develop a learning plan to think about, how am I going to continue to learn about AI? Because more and more is going to keep changing and coming out. How am I going to stay on top of it and continue to learn as I go? So that's kind of the map of the series. Like John said, we have a website. If you search AAMC AI skill building series, if you just Google that, it will come up, and you will see the list of our different sessions, the objectives that we're aiming towards in those various sessions. You can register for the whole series or individual sessions. The sessions are also recorded and they live on that website. So if you missed the first one in May, no problem. You can go back and watch that one and catch up. And, based on your schedule, you can watch the recordings or attend live. It's been very well received. I think for this one coming up on Thursday, we have over 1,000 registrants for that particular session, and it just keeps growing. So we'd love to have everybody join us, whether live or if you watch the recording later. It really, like John said, it is a passion of ours to let people get in there and actually try things out, for it to be very hands-on. We give people opportunities to actually practice. This is what this whole series is about, and so we're very excited about it.
So Dr. Stacey Pylman, you just kind of threw this in here in the middle of this wonderful pitch. Yeah, we have 1,000 people signed up, and you didn't even blink. I mean, when we in faculty and development, as you know, around the country, when we get like 20 people signed up for a thing and then 10 people show up, we're like, woohoo, winning. And here you said, yeah, we had 800, we have 1,000, and now you're just accustomed to this. And after this episode drops, you're probably going to be having thousands of people sign up. What a obvious evidence for a hunger for this information and how to apply it. And you and John Lowry are the perfect people to be teaching this because you get it. You're in the thick of it. You understand the work, the culture, the nature of what we do in academic health as educators, trying to build our and how to apply the work. That's what I love so much about your series, the way you've described it, is the application, not just the theory and the heavy backstage how things work, but how can I use it? So that's what I think is so incredibly valuable. And I love, and I also want to underscore something else you said, Stacey, that we're going to be going through this over, till next February 2026. And who knows exactly. Right. I took a webinar on a course, and one of the guys said, yeah, right now today is the worst that AI will ever be. This is the worst it's going to be, and meaning that every day it's getting better and better and better, because they're always yeah, but yes, get this, and it gives you that. Yeah, you asked for, banana bread, but it put in plantains and not bananas. Oh, it's not going to make that mistake ever again. Every day and every iteration is getting better. And I love that you also put in that critically appraising the results. So John, would you tell us want to get into a little bit more about like what you're noticing on the evaluation? Because I know you're collecting data because you're an academic. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Dr. Lowry?
Sure. My experience with teaching AI in faculty development has been that most faculty collectively, obviously there's some people who are early adopters, some people who've just taken it upon themselves to learn it by doing. Some of them just jump in without really knowing what they're doing, and they just figure their way through it, or at least they think they figured their way through it. And others are hesitant to even start. We have people that talk about Skynet and the machines are going to come for us and all those kinds of things, and everything in between. There's some people that just haven't really done much with it. Some want to, and some are okay with like, look, I don't think I imagine that was what it was like when the internet was coming around, was like, okay, the internet, yeah, it might be there. I don't know if I'll use it. And today we all use it for all kinds of things. So with this particular series, part of the reason I figured, and I think we all kind of figured that it would be well received, was because we had, I think as a group, all had similar experiences where we had done some training and some faculty development. And it was like, as soon as we give them something that they can use, they're like, ooh, this is good. I want more of this. So we figured, hey, this might be how given that we're all kind of thinking and feeling this way, this might be something that we're onto. The first session that we did in May, I was the main presenter, and we had a lot of engagement during the session. We had people that were active in the chat, actively sharing. I didn't take them through a lot of the how-to parts, mostly because we were going to do that throughout the series, and I didn't want to just give them everything all at one time, knowing that we're going to do, evaluating outputs, we're going to do the prompting, effective prompting and things like that. So I didn't give them too much in that session, but I will say that just with the little bit that I did give them, there was some good engagement, and you can tell it reached people on their level. It's kind of like entering a pool or entering a lake where it's zero depth, it's barely getting your toes. Some people, that's where they needed to be. And you can tell others are like, okay, this is easy. I've done this. I'm way past this. But we're trying to lift everyone to the same point. And I think what we're intentionally doing is reaching those that either haven't done it but are wanting to try, those who have been hesitant, those who have just never found anything that they've really liked that would get them started. We're lifting all boats to the same level. And so our engagement was really good. Our evaluations, we had a lot of good feedback on that. This really resonated with a lot of our audience. And I think that speaks to the fact that we have even more people registered for the next one than we did for the first one. We've had people reach out to us to say, hey, thanks for the series. series. Can I be involved? I've done some work with AI. And so, yes, we're definitely trying to, by the end of the series, we look at this as a curriculum. We look at this as it's not just a bunch of random sessions. We're very intentional with going through it systematically. One of the things that people will do when they register, we have of course we have a pre-survey for people to rate their competence with a number of the things that we feel are important. And it's just a self-assessment. We ask people to say can you use AI in your teaching and in your curriculum design, in your assessment, in your scholarly activities, and just to say how much are you doing or how comfortable are you with this? And then we want to see changes in that over the course of the series or by the end of the series. This is a way for us to evaluate how effective we are, but it also gives people a chance for them. We give a lot of time for then digesting and processing and trying before they have the next session. It's about once per month. And over the course of, 8, 9, 10 months, we have a lot of time for people to maybe they engage with some other AI education or some other faculty development. And so our goal really for this is by the time they're done, they are using it where they want. They're using it in a meaningful way that they want to do. No one's making them do this. No one's, saying you have to do it, but knowing that this is out there. And when we show them what's possible with AI in their educational work, we think that a lot of people will be like, ooh, this is going to save me a lot of time. This is going to make me more creative. Probably the best way I've ever heard AI described is to call it augmented intelligence, which means you're not just saying, hey, make a curriculum about this that I can just use and then I copy and paste it. That's not me doing anything. But when I use AI to say, help me think of ideas for this thing I want to do and help me do it better, more effectively, and it really allows each person to amplify their own creativity, their own efforts. That's really, I think, the sweet spot for using AI. And that's what we're trying to do with this.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Gosh, and I can just imagine the community you're building and then can build as spin-offs of this when any cohort program that we've, put together or been a part of over time, you get used to certain people. And I think there's wonderful opportunity for pods and groups of people to just kind of connect and inspire and encourage and share, like in the old-fashioned listservs. And I also want to give a shout out because that's how I learned about you. Shout out to Jeffrey Kaminsky and Alexis Rossi at the Association of American Medical Colleges. And I'm on this AI thing, and I did go to John's, your first one, and I will see you, Stacey, on Thursday at yours. But so I think community, that my mantra is to build community, obviously this podcast. So I think kudos again to you, not only for putting the hard work in on the scholarship and designing a curriculum and putting the work in, but for building community. And then I was curious, not only is what your thoughts are about the pull toward, I'm curious about what can augmented intelligence do for me and make me more efficient and help me be more creative and help me free up time. But what about the push from our learners? What are your thoughts and reflections on purposely building that community of learners or kind of going backwards and bringing our learners up with us and then also leveraging what they know because they're being, as we know, raised on this. Anytime I have a tech problem, I want to look for a third grader who then roll their little eyes at me and kind of fix something in 3 seconds. But what are your reflections, Stacey, Dr. Pylman? Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about that a lot, and I've been encouraging people like John and me who are faculty developers or even educators to think about how to develop at their own institutions community of practices around AI. And to invite students into those communities because we are all learning at the same time. This is different than your normal content or curriculum in a medical school where you've got your faculty who know some things, maybe a little bit better than the students, right? But this is new to all of us. We're all learning together. And like you said, sometimes the students are ahead of us and we have to acknowledge that. We have to learn from our students as well. And so when you build that community of practice and you come together and say, all right, let's just share. How are we using this? Students, how are you using this to study? Because that's important for me as an educator to understand that. That's where I think things can really flourish, especially at the institutional level. And I would like to say also that, John and I, at times, we have a little bit imposter syndrome, or maybe it's just me. I don't know, John. Maybe it's
Oh,
just
no, it's not just you.
where, my colleagues have said, Stacey, I didn't know you were an AI guru. And you're doing this whole thing. And if you would have asked me even 2 years ago, absolutely not. I would have never guessed that I would be doing this work, but it fell into my world, right? And so now I feel like my job is to learn as quickly as I can, to go out to educate myself through various resources so that I can then bring it to my faculty, to bring it to my students, and to say, here's what I learned. And that's how this whole series came about. I'm an educator. I'm a medical educator just like everybody else. I'm not a tech expert in any way. I do love technology and I love to explore. And maybe that's what drove me into this, because I do like to see what is out there and how is it going to make our work better in some ways. And so, yeah, I feel like there are people like John and me all over the world who can start these small skill building communities of practice wherever they are and do the same sort of work. You could use our recordings if you wanted to. You can do your own thing. And build. And I really, like I said, I really encourage inviting in students into this. It doesn't have to be just a faculty community of practice.
Yeah.
It's got to be all of us together.
Interdisciplinary, intergenerational, pure diversity in its truest sense. I mean, that's what's
Exactly.
going to, and John, you said something earlier that, reminded me of, I'm not an early adopter. I shared the story with you how I'm so bad at technology that I mistook my television remote control for my cell phone. And I mean, I'm really a Luddite. And I realized that what you're saying about some people who are early adopters, yeah, God bless them, Godspeed. They're way ahead of us and they're rolling their eyes. They've stopped listening because they're so good at this stuff. Others of us we're curious, but we're slower. And some people are darn right, as John, you mentioned earlier, I'm scared of that stuff. That's the devil. And that is, we're, post-apocalyptic. It's all doom and gloom. And in between are all those kind of like, yeah, but I'm curious if I get a cell phone, what will that do for me? Oh, if I use the automatic checkout at the grocery, what's that going to do for me? Oh, if I have the highway, super pass, easy pass, I don't have to. Oh, okay. You recognize the value when you see others doing things. And so what I love about your series is the application. It's so important when we teach leadership courses, people like you can shove, a million PowerPoints down our throat, but how do I apply the work? And when I'm all about, interactive classrooms and having, high activity as are many of us, most of us, hopefully. And what I love to do scenarios and role plays and like different things. And that takes me so long to do those vignettes and role plays because I love the theater, I fancy myself an actress. And so I get into the characters and the motivation and the settings and I write these scripts and I'm like, I will spend hours putting together a role play. And then one day I'm like, Kim, you ding dong. And I went to OpenAI, ChatGPT, and like, put together, write a scenario of a conflict between a senior faculty member and a more early career faculty member about authorship on a paper. And I kid you not, I turned my head and took a sip of coffee in 3 seconds, boom. And I'm like, come on. And then I'm like, well, now make it. And then this has come, the whole, when you're talking about the prompt engineering, well, make it so that the early career faculty member is this, or change it to make it that. And so that's when I learned the whole prompt engineering thing and thought, are you kidding me? What would normally have taken me a couple hours. And here's what I think the sticking point is when you think of like when John said earlier, it helps for creativity because we may have these great ideas, but we think, I don't have time to do that. I have ideas. I could make this great. I could revise or edit this, but especially our clinical faculty, they don't have that kind of time. Ah, contraire, mon frère. When you use AI, now you have time. So that can save you time to be more creative, to be more curious, to say what if, and to explore. So I'm going to shut up because you got me all excited. But John, go.
You're exactly right, Kim. What you're describing is exactly what. So the concept of augmented intelligence that I was referred to came from Jules White, who's at Vanderbilt University. He is someone, to your listeners who are looking for good content on AI, Jules White is among the best. He comes from the technology side of things, but he also is an educator. In fact, he's some kind of advisor to the provost there at Vanderbilt. He gets it in a way that he explains it to others so that they can rise again to that high level. So, but what you're describing is exactly what we want everyone to do. Think about how the internet has made our life different. My television that I watch comes through the internet. So I have to kind of understand how connectivity and bandwidth and things like that, our phones, our devices, everything's connected. Whereas back in the days, we were kind of thinking like, what would I do if this? It's like, no, it's just going to happen. And I kind of see that same thing happening. AI is going to be, it already is embedded in a lot of the things we already do. If you open up Microsoft Word, I noticed that my little Copilot icon is on there. So I have AI already in my Microsoft environment. And really, to what you described, we want to use our creativity, our thoughts. You know, we're smart people. We went to school for 1,000 years to be where we are, and we know things, and we need to, and we also understand the context. Even if Stacey and I got together and said, hey, we have this thing and we understand the exact same thing, our context may be different enough to where it's like, well, this could work here, but maybe not there. And so there's a whole rich, discussion to be had. How do I make this concept apply in this context? There's a whole lot of moving parts and dynamic things to consider. If you give enough of that to AI, it can help you. It can understand that. And if you say, like what you said, hey, make it more like this and less like that, even just a few simple things with AI can really change the output that you're getting. And again, it saves you the time so that now we're all busy. We all have plenty of things to do. And our clinician faculty they have tons of patients to see on top of their educational and scholarly things that they do. I just gave a presentation recently to one of our departments, and the topic was how to do the things in a scholarly sense using AI to overcome the parts where that usually we just give up, essentially. In other words, we're doing the brilliant things. Maybe we need to write them up or create a survey or to illustrate them for a journal. How can AI help you do that? How can AI help you take something, or maybe you have an idea that you've just never fleshed out. How can AI help you flesh out the idea to the point where you're actually ready to use it and implement it? And that's where I think AI is really most useful. I would describe it as AI is useful on the front end of a project, really useful to brainstorm, really useful to organize, really useful to kind of help me understand where I want to go. And if it's my project, I'm maybe the only one who's really qualified to say, yes, this is what I'm trying to do. If you're trying to do it for somebody else or something else, that may be more of a group discussion, or you may need to get some other people involved. When you're writing, I'm actually not a big fan of using it to write things for me, unless it's a sentence here. Like I would never say, hey, write a whole couple of paragraphs about this, and then just use that. One, that's probably not ethical or fair to use. But also, I don't want AI to speak for me. If I'm going to say something, I want it to be mine. I might say, help me word this sentence to be more impactful, or to say more about this. How can I change this thing I've already written to be more enhanced? And then on the back end of a project to say, okay, I've done this. Let me double check this. So I might put some parts into an AI model and have it critique it, have it say, what's my weaknesses, or what am I not addressing with this? Am I accurately portraying it if this is how things are, or what else could I add to this to make it better? So on the front end and the back end is where I think it's the most useful. There's still some utility there, but certainly using it in the right way. What you won't see in our series is you won't see a standalone session on ethics with AI. That's very intentional. We did not. A lot of people would be like, okay, that sounds boring. We are approaching ethics. Ethics is actually a big part of using AI. We are approaching that in every session. We have at least some component of ethics in every one. Because as we talk about what you can do, we'll also talk about should we do it this way or why should we not do it this other way? Because again, that ethical use, there's still a lot as AI is being developed that we're not really sure about. Is it okay to take a bunch of articles that you've grabbed from a library and just drop it into AI and start having it create stuff for you? It's one thing to say, summarize this for me. It's another thing to say, generate content from this other stuff. And again, what do I do with it once it's written it out for me? There's things that I have to do as the owner of whatever it is I'm working on, to be fair and ethical and to respect laws and ethics and best practices.
Amazing. I'm so thrilled to have had you on the podcast, both of you, Dr. John Lowry, Dr. Stacey Pylman. This is so cool. We're going to have a link on the website, thefacultyfactory.org, to this episode. Folks, if you want to, you just like Stacey said, I just Googled AAMC AI series, and it pops right up. But we'll have a link to it. It's amazing. I can personally attest to it. Great content today, Stacey, John. I'll leave a parting comment to both of you. What would you like to say in closing?
I think for me, the key takeaway for me, because I am in the world of CME, of continuing medical education, or CPD, for me, the big takeaway is, like John said, this is here to stay, just like the internet came and it was here to stay. So we are going to have to think about how we are going to continue to learn about this, and really try to integrate it into our learning plans for ourselves, right? As professionals who are growing in our development, AI and how we use it and how we learn is should be integrated in that, thinking about all the work that we do, whether we are a clinician and we're working in healthcare, how am I going to learn about AI in that setting? Or I'm an educator who develops curriculum. What do I need to learn in order to keep up and keep moving at the pace that, of course, our learners are moving and that the world is taking us?
Oh, Stacey. So, John, I'm scared. I can't do this. I don't want to do it. Give me a pitch.
Yeah, honestly, I would say AI is a tool, and it can be as simple as using a screwdriver to screw something in. It can be as complex as, a blowtorch that can cut through metal and weld and solder things. I learned a lot about tools growing up. My dad was always building and fixing things. My father-in-law is the same way. And yet I don't know how to do most of what they know how to do, but I know how to do a few things. And I think AI is like that. I think when people start to really do it and actually use it, I think there'll be a lot of, oh, that's what it is. Well, that's not scary. I can do this, and I could probably even do more. In fact, it makes me think that I want to do more. One of the trainings that I did for a group of faculty, there was a physician who had been on all night long, was there early in the morning for a grand rounds. You can tell she's exhausted. She's like, yeah, I have to go talk to an insurance company for a peer-to-peer for a denial claim. And I was like, you know what? Ask ChatGPT without giving any information. Just say, what are some things I could say to on this call that could help me strengthen my claim for why they should approve this? And her eyes lit up like, I can do that? Yes, you can do. If you have information, you can do whatever is meaningful, whatever is important to you. Just use AI to do the stuff that you really want to do. Don't worry about anything else with it. It's not going away. It'll still be there. And when you practice with it a little bit, you'll find that there's some things. Even one of my colleagues who does get really doom and gloom and Skynet and end of the world type of thing about it, he used it the other day when I was with him, and he's like, this is amazing. I can't believe how robust this is. And it's like, yeah, just use it and just try it. Get some people around you, know where you can get some good information, and go from there.
Thanks for tuning in to the Faculty Factory podcast. We are a faculty development community sharing tools to build academic leaders in healthcare. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast? Please visit facultyfactory.org/contact and send me a message there. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Office of Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas.